Congratulations. You've just taken the first step to repairing or improving any relationship in your life. Maybe you're looking to create deeper connections with your loved ones or just get along better with your clients or colleagues. Today, I am going to share with you three secrets to improving any relationship in your life. And these are things nobody teaches us. And you most likely have never heard them before, at least not in the way I teach. So even if we never meet again, you are going to learn something. You're going to leave with the tools you need to make any relationship in your life feel better, stronger, and more connected. If this is our first time meeting, hey there, I'm Melanie McNamara. I am the Success Your Way coach. I am a certified life, weight, and mindset coach, and I help women in business feel as successful on the inside as it looks from the outside. And I do this using a mix of brain science with a feminist and intersectional lens, which is just one way of saying that we figure out the conditioning and beliefs you received from your family of origin and the culture you grew up in to understand how that's affecting the way you're thinking and feeling about your life and your relationships right now. And then from there, I help you redefine what success looks like for you. And a few years ago, I was on the brink of burnout in every area of my life. I had a very successful, by all outside accounts, career. I seemed to have a close partnership with my husband in our marriage and business. And people sometimes even refer to us as a power couple. I had a beautiful home and family, all the things that looked great from the outside. But on the inside, I was slowly burning out. I was buying into the hustle culture with my business, and I was taking on all the emotional suffering of the people around me. When my clients' deals fell through, or my friends or family were struggling and suffering, and my marriage left me feeling desperately unfulfilled. And so the breaking point for me was in the spring of 2016 when I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. And along with some fear and anxiety, a feeling of peace washed over me. I had a legitimate excuse to step out of that life I was living and focus on something else, focus on me for a while. And after that is what I like to say I found the secrets to the universe. The secrets were never really taught in life. In fact, secrets we are explicitly taught the opposite of. So even if we're taught some of the concepts, we're not really given the tools that I'm going to share with you today to change everything. So one of my favorite things to talk about are relationships, how to create thriving, rich, connected, and loving relationships, including our relationship with ourselves. So the first thing I'm going to share with you is that it only takes one person to change a relationship. I used to think that was total bullshit. There is no way. How can a relationship change without the other person making some changes? Well, that's why we're here. You are ready to make a change. You are ready to become the emotional leader in your life and in your relationships. You are ready to go first. And I'm going to show you how. Okay, so grab your pens and papers and take some notes and let's dive in. So, the first concept I want to share is the idea of emotional childhood and emotional adulthood. And most of us walk around living in emotional childhood either 100% of the time, or we waver in and out. Maybe in some things, we're always in emotional childhood, and some things we just know the difference instinctively. So when we're children, we live our emotions out loud. We react to the people and the circumstances around us. We need to solve for our emotions externally. We need our caretakers and things outside of ourselves to feel better. And we're explicitly taught that other people create our feelings. So think back to when you were a kid. You probably heard things like, oh, did little Johnny hurt your feelings? Or be nice to little Susie, or you'll hurt her feelings. Or your parents said, you make us feel so happy or proud because of your accomplishment, or that you cleaned your room, or something you did. Or you made us mad or disappointed that you did this other thing. Or even, don't cry, you'll make mommy sad. Or if you're brave and you don't cry, daddy will be proud. So we learn that if we do certain things and behave in a certain way, the people around us feel different and they act different. Right. So people pleasing comes into this, right? If we act a certain way, then other people will be happy with us. So people pleasing is really just trying to manipulate other people to feel a certain way about us. There's That's just what we've been taught. Okay. So that gives you an idea of where it comes from. And of course, then we grow up feeling responsible for other people's feelings and that they're responsible for ours. And when you're busy blaming someone else, you're not taking responsibility for how you are creating how you feel. How often do we say, they make me feel so? Fill in the blank. Angry, irritated, annoyed, unloved, disrespected, or even they make me feel so happy or loved, supported, or excited. They cannot make you feel any particular way. And this is the best news ever. Because when you take back all the agency over your own emotions, I promise you everything in your life changes. When we attribute all of our feelings to external events, circumstances, people, what they say and do, we go out and we try to change the world. And we try to change people so that we can change how we feel. But we're doing it backwards because one, it rarely works. And two, when it does seem to work, it perpetuates that belief that some external thing can change how we feel. When what's really happening is the external thing changes, then we change our thoughts about it and we attribute it to the thing or the behavior. But what that does is you're left feeling powerless. It is so challenging to try to change other people. We need to change the way we feel first. And then from a better feeling, more productive feeling place, then we can act in a more powerful, a more peaceful way, claiming our own emotional leadership in all of our relationships. Because when we try to change the other person to change how we feel, we're totally doing it backwards. And when we do that, we're relying on external people to behave in a different way to make us feel better. And we cannot control other people. Have you ever tried? It rarely works. People do not like to be manipulated or controlled or told how to behave. Neither do we, right? So most of us feel so powerless in our lives and relationships because of this. So, what I work on in depth with my clients is how to really take back all of their own personal power, agency, and authority over their emotional life. I help them live an emotional adulthood the majority of the time. We're humans with human brains, and we're going to be an emotional childhood sometimes, and that's okay. So, becoming aware of when we are is really the first step to making huge changes in our relationships. So, what the hell do we do about all this? How do we take responsibility for our own feelings? Well, the first step to that is understanding where our feelings actually come from, which takes us to our second concept, which I've already touched on. You may have heard it. Our thoughts create our feelings. Now, you may have heard this in some way or another, but it's really the foundation for everything in our lives. I cannot stress that enough. So external things happen, circumstances in the world, people say words, people do things, things we can't control, and we have thoughts about those things. We have judgments, we have opinions, and we have stories about these things. So thoughts are really just neurotransmitters firing and sparking together in our brain. That's all thoughts are. So when we have thoughts in our brain, those neurons create a chemical reaction, which is just a vibration in our body that we call feelings or emotions. Now, that's the super simple overview. right? So even knowing that, though, where we get tripped up is really separating out our thoughts from the facts, our opinions from the circumstances, our stories from the things outside of us and our control. So there are circumstances in the world and they're neutral, they're facts, things that have happened in our past, the words people say, the things people do, right? The diagnoses that we've had, they're just facts. But then we have thoughts about those things and we think we're just observing the world. But really, we're creating stories about the circumstances, about other people. We're making labels for other people. My mother is so manipulative. My spouse doesn't appreciate me. My kids don't respect me. My clients are so stubborn. My friend is flaky. So I use a very powerful and effective tool for awareness in my coaching with my clients that helps them learn how to separate out the true facts from their thoughts and how that's creating their feelings. So the next step to that is noticing that when they're feeling angry or irritated or unloved, unsupported, disrespected, noticing how they're showing up in the relationship, how they're reacting to those emotions, how feeling those types of very disempowering emotions is driving them to act in ways that are counterproductive to the loving connection that they're desiring. Now, that doesn't mean ever that we don't choose to have thoughts that create quote unquote negative emotions sometimes. It's not what I'm saying. So please don't misunderstand what I'm teaching you here. This is a great misconception. This does not mean that you need to be happy all the time, no matter what somebody else says or does. But it is you need to be aware of your thinking, right? It's your thinking about it because, again, best news ever, more good news, because then you get to have power over it. Because if other people controlled our emotions, we would have no power over ourselves. That's how most of us walk around in emotional childhood, believing that all these other things control our emotions and we're so out of control, right? That guy who just cut you off in traffic, you're thinking he has power over your emotions. Is that what you want? Your 15-year-old with body odor playing video games all day. Do you want him in charge of your feelings? Or how about that mother? Do you want your mother to control how you feel? Right? We don't. But listen, it only takes one adult in the room, and that can be you. In fact, let's just say it should be you. You're the one who clicked on this training. You are the one, right? You are the one who can go first. It is so powerful to take radical responsibility for ourselves instead of delegating responsibility for our emotions to other people because they're not going to do it right and it's not their job. Try to control other and like trying to control and maneuver other people to be happy and then we end up miserable. So that doesn't mean that you stay in a relationship, right? And you just force yourself to be happy. It just means that once you clean up everything on your side of the table, so to speak, then you can decide from a very clear place, very empowered place, how you want to handle this relationship. You get to create the highest and best, most connected relationship that you can possibly have with this other person. And then you can still choose to end that relationship. I like to say this relationship is complete. So I help my clients create those relationships and make powerful decisions based on their values and preferences and not stay in the emotional childhood or leave a relationship feeling like a victim. So the last concept I'm going to share with you today is what we refer to as the manual. These are rules we have created for the world. So let's call this one the relationship manual. Okay, we have this idea of how they should behave in order to meet our needs, things they're supposed to say or not say, things they should be doing or not doing. We have rules for what a relationship is supposed to look like. So just notice what your rules are for other people. We have rules for all the people in society, right? At the grocery store, they shouldn't leave their carts in the parking lot, or they should just get out of my way. And my clients should just do what I advise. They should appreciate me. I hear that a lot from, from some of my entrepreneurial and business owner clients, right? My kids shouldn't roll their eyes at me. And these manuals sound very lovely sometimes. People should be kind, people should be respectful. But here's the thing, no, they shouldn't be, because people aren't kind or respectful sometimes. We're not kind or respectful sometimes. But when we're arguing that they should be different and they're not, we're the ones suffering. We create our own suffering. And listen, we have huge, thick manuals for ourselves too. And that's something I definitely work on with my clients. I help them spot the made up rules they've been following in their lives that's keeping them stuck. But here's the thing for other people. Okay. So knowing you have a manual of how they're supposed to behave, right? We understand we have a manual and then they don't follow it and we think they're the problem. But the thing is, they're just out there being who they want to be. Let me be clear. Again, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a manual. I'm saying be very aware of when you do, why you have that manual, what you make it mean when people aren't following it, and when you're acting or reacting from that manual. So, to recap, it only takes one person to change a relationship. And who better than you to go first? I promise you, it is very empowering to be that person. And then the first concept I shared with you was emotional childhood and emotional adulthood, and how most people are living in emotional childhood, delegating all the responsibility over their emotions to the people and the world around them. And then the second thing we talked about was how our thoughts create our feelings, and our feelings drive all of our actions, which is just like how we're showing up in our relationships. When we're in emotional adulthood, we are taking full responsibility for how we feel and our actions. We're not blaming other people for how we feel and what we do. That puts us into a victim mentality, which never produces great results in our relationships. Okay. And then finally, we talked about the manual, the list of rules we have for how other people should behave in order to make us feel better. So, here are a few things you can take away with you to help you with the awareness of where any of this is showing up for you in your relationships. So, the first thing I want to offer for you is to pause. Someone says something to you or they do something. Just pause. Pause before you react. The power is in the pause. It's going to feel a little weird and wobbly, especially if you're used to reacting in a certain way. If you have some very deeply ingrained stories or labels for the people you're in relationships with that feel like facts, they're not facts. It's your story about them, right? Your brain loves a habit. Your brain does not like to change. It is used to your neurons firing in a very specific, certain way. So that's totally okay. It just takes practice. Okay. So you pause. And then here are a few questions you can ask yourself before you even respond. We want to get you to a place where you're responding and not just reacting. So someone says or does something, you just pause. Even if they're looking at you, waiting for a reaction, you just pause. And here are a few questions you can ask yourself. What am I making this mean? Okay. They said some words and I made it mean something, something either about them or something about me. What is that? Okay. How does it make me feel when I think that way? What is the emotion I create when I think that thought or when I make it mean this thing, right? What is that emotion? What is that particular vibration in my body called? And then how do I react when I feel this way? How do I show up? What do I say or do or not say or do when I am coming from that emotion or that energy? How am I reacting instead of responding? And then ask yourself, is that who I want to be? Is that how I want to react? And what am I delegating my emotions to? Who or what am I making responsible for my emotions here? So those are a lot of questions, and I encourage you to write those down and journal about them. Think about different interactions you've had, different relationships, and play around with some of those questions. Right? This isn't always easy work. I like to call it the emotional heavy lifting. We're just getting a mind workout in here, right? But you are here for a reason. You want to improve your relationships and you are powerful. You are so much more powerful than you can imagine. And this is why coaching is so important. You've probably tried everything else, and doing what you've always done is going to get you more of the same, right? Oh, little hair. Your thoughts are always the problem for you. Here's the thing, everyone has blind spots. No amount of self coaching, which are like the questions that I offered you, are going to reveal those blind spots. Lasting change requires us to invest time and energy into our mental and emotional health. And here's how my coaching is different than what you may have experienced with coaching before. Most other coaches coach on how to get other people to change and behave, how to get them to communicate or listen to you. And yes, we need some of those tools and the how to do things in that way, which I do also coach on. But it always goes back to our own thoughts and how we cannot control those other people and who we want to be, right? That's why so often other types of coaching or therapies or self help isn't effective. So, the benefits of my style of coaching, which is called causal coaching, is solving the root cause, not the symptoms, because how you're thinking about anything creates your experience. So, some of the symptoms my clients come to me with are they're fighting a lot in their relationships, or they're maybe overeating or over drinking, or even under earning, right, in their business, in their relationships, in their business, feeling unfulfilled or dissatisfied with their marriages or their careers. My clients are looking for a change. And if you're ready to make lasting changes in every area of your life, I invite you to click the link in this email and schedule your complimentary consultation. No icky, pushy sales call, simply an invitation to share what's happening for you in your life. And then I will lovingly show you how working together will impact the quality of your life and business for the rest of your life. I'll show you how to create joy in your life so you don't need to get it from over shopping, overeating, drinking, scrolling on social media or Netflix. All right. The kind of nurturing look into your brain in depth, that in depth look into your head and your thoughts is how I show you how you will find a more empowering way to think about any relationship in your life. And then decide what you want to do, right? And show you how creating anything you want is 100% available to you. So, coaching with me is like going to the gym for your mind and emotions. It can be challenging and it is also fun, inspiring, and empowering. So, even if you have a mother in law who hates you, a spouse who doesn't appreciate you, or clients who don't respect you, doing this work will set you free. So, click the link to schedule a consult call. It's an hour together that can change your life. Thanks for watching.